This is Corporate Warrior, high-intensity training lifestyle and business with Lawrence Neal, helping you improve your health and physique, become a great personal trainer, and start and grow your hit business.
Lawrence Neal here. Welcome back to CorporateWarrior.co. My guest today is owner of Basic Training, Bill Crawford. Bill was trained for musculoskeletal evaluation and rehabilitation at the Exercise Science Center, University of Florida in Gainesville, and was personally trained by the late Arthur Jones, inventor of Nautilus and Med-X. Over the past 42 years, Bill has provided fitness training for thousands, exercising muscles in isolation to muscle failure with equalized resistance through the full range of motion using a safe and effective protocol. You may have seen his national TV ads for the resistance chair, his features on CNN and Fox News, or read his stories in countless publications. Bill is a recognized fitness columnist, consultant, lecturer, and educator. He's owned and developed fitness centers all around the world. Since 1997, Basic Training has been located in Scottsdale, Arizona, and is owned and operated by Bill and his wife, Debbie, who's also going to be on the show today. Today, the Crawford's clients, enjoy their dedication to personal service, state-of-the-art cardio, and Med-X equipment. Their knowledge and motivational skills help people attain their fitness goals, and there is no substitute for decades of Bill's practical experience and expertise. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you for the wonderful acknowledgement and introduction. We really appreciate that. And Lawrence, it was great to see you in Minneapolis. It was a wonderful event. We all enjoyed it so much. And then we have to all go back to our real world. And here we are.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual, and it was great meeting you again at the conference. And I'm currently going through my REC blues period right now. I'm a bit sad. And yeah, it was just a wonderful weekend and far too short. I'd love to know what for you was your favorite moment, or what did you enjoy the most at the conference this year?
Well, I have to tell you, for me, there were two favorite moments. One was acknowledging Charlie Barth and knowing that Med-X has been resurrected and it's in good hands. That is huge for all of us, because that's really the flagship of our philosophies and our training protocol and our equipment. And so that was a very positive event for me. But to be very selfish, and what I personally got out of it was the unexpected accolade that I received was my award for lifetime achievement. So that was a huge moment for myself.
Yeah, well deserved. And I did not see Charlie. Was he actually in the audience as well?
He was. Charlie was in the audience. He was sitting towards the back, right, with Jim Flanagan. Right. And we actually, Debbie and I went to dinner with Charlie on Friday night, and had a nice long conversation with him. We talked about his plans for the future and some of the dreams that he has and aspirations. And it's just great to know that Med-X is open for business.
Absolutely. So are you able to reveal any of the plans, or is it all a bit top secret at the moment? Perhaps I need to have Charlie on the podcast.
The main thing that Med-X needs to do is sell machines. That's the core of their business. Charlie has a background in the computer technology. As a matter of fact, he co-authored the original DOS program on the Med-X lumbar extension machine and cervical neck and rotary torso, knee, and rotary neck machine. I think I named all of them there. And so his knowledge of how the static strength testing works and the dynamic exercise portion works is extensive. And he gets it. And of course, he had the pleasure of working with Arthur, day in and day out. So one of the things that he was talking about that he would like to do in the future is incorporate some of this same static strength testing and range of motion computer technologies on some of the Med-X machines. Because being able to qualify and quantify the exercises and the results of static strength tests on, let's say, for example, the Med-X lumbar extension machine is huge. The way that you can do line graphs that do comparative analyses in the addition of strength capacity is huge, and it's very motivating. So let's say if we were able to put those on, I don't think you'd have them on every machine, but you could do some of the basics. Let's say leg press for leg strength, lat pull down for back strength, and perhaps a chest press. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Totally. Yeah. Super effective tool for retention.
Right. So I think he's thinking out of the box along those lines. And he didn't rule out, making other equipment as the exercise science technology needs become apparent. But he's got his hands full right now. I think there's still 22 pieces of strength training, and the stretching machines plus the medical machines. So again, the underlying score is we've all got to be supportive of the company. And man, if you need machines, put those orders in.
So what's the situation? Are they open for business? Can you order yet? Or when will they be? If not, you can.
They are open. They are open for business, and they are making machines as we speak.
Wow, so brand new pieces.
Yes, brand new pieces.
That's a bit of a stupid question, really, but appreciate you clarifying that.
Yeah. You also mentioned to me that if people have the older Medix machines, the medical machines, that they will do an exchange, a turnaround, so that if you want to be upgraded, if you want to have some of the new technology that has been developed over the years and you've got an old machine, they will bring out a new machine, switch it out and take the old machine back, strip it down, sandblast it, powder coat it, refit it, and then that one will be available for the market also.
Wonderful.
I think that's a great idea.
Excellent. I have to get them on the podcast at some point, because no better way than to announce their revival, so to speak, than on the Corporate Warrior podcast. So.
That's a great idea. Great idea.
You'll have to help make that introduction, Bill.
No problem. And of course, Jim, Jim is in contact with Charlie also, and they're close, and they're geographically in the same proximity.
Yeah. What do you know? What's the website, the official website for the new company?
That's a great question. The official website is medixonline.net.
Right.
It used to be .com, but now it is .net. And on that website, one of the nice things that we always like to have, especially with traveling visitors, is under resources, there's a facility locator. So if you have people that are traveling or visiting, or and they want to know where they can find a facility that has Medix equipment, that's a real good resource. Plus, it has all the white papers and the studies that have been done. And he told me that he was going to put the schematics page back on there, which has been missing for a while. The schematics page is a model that has the footprint of all the Medix machines, so that if you are designing a facility and want to see how they all fit in, it makes it a lot easier than moving 1,000-pound machines around.
Excellent. I love that. I think that's clever from his perspective as well, because all of those things just increase the value to the user, right? And make it far easier for him to sell machines. So no, I think that's really useful. I'm excited to support their mission, and to, I guess, do podcasts and also support them via the membership where possible as well. Just going back to the conference for a moment, what, aside from those wonderful moments, what for you were some big takeaways? I mean, we had some really good keynotes. Doug McGuff's keynote was unbelievable. Jeremy Lowenecki, James Fisher. I'd love to hear what were your biggest takeaways.
Doug McGrath, I think, is an awesome person to have on our team. The way that he can articulate his exercise philosophies and incorporate those in with Arthur, I think, is phenomenal. One of my favorite parts of his lecture was when he was talking about when he was a young man and he first saw Nautilus equipment. And, it was a very similar experience to mine, because back then there was nothing out there except barbells, dumbbells, and maybe a universal cable machine and this and that. And when you walked in and you saw these machines, they really did look like they were from another planet. And the physical experience of working out on Nautilus for the first time was truly unbelievable. It did something to you physiologically that you'd never experienced before. And he articulated that very well. I thought that his position, he is a a doctor. He's a emergency room ER doc, and so he has spent his whole life as a medical practitioner, and he's kind of taken the opposite position with those of us who have been in the frontline trenches for many years, fighting against all of the consequences of modern medicine. And he says, if you want to stay fit and healthy, and if you want to survive, you better get into strength training, because that's the answer. And when he talked about how many of the people in our population, a huge segment of our population, is barely hanging on. And if it wasn't for advanced technology and electronics and medical care, they wouldn't survive. And so he talked about things that could happen, natural disasters, an electromagnetic pulse, things like that. If that occurred, there's a huge section of our population that would drop off the earth within a couple of weeks. So, that message is stay fit, stay strong, have your resources for survival and strength training totally embedded in your lifestyle. And we'll all be better off that way. I think it's a very timely message. It's a very good message.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If anyone in that room needed their purpose solidified or needed a bit of motivation to continue doing what they're doing, I can't think of anything more powerful a message than that. I remember I was absolutely bursting for a wee at that point, and I was like, well, I'm not going to miss any of this keynote. It was a great relief when he finished, because I could run off. But I was determined. I was determined to hang around and take in every single word. And I know a friend of mine, Sean, who came all the way from Ireland with me, was actually tearing up. He was actually, very, very emotional. I think many of us were quite emotional following that speech. So and obviously the rest of the keynotes were fantastic as well. I don't want to downplay any of the others. And it was just a great conference all around.
Right. James Fisher, I always appreciate his research. I mean, he's all over this stuff, and he always brings such valuable results for his research that he's done. And another one that I thought was interesting, we've all thought, well, how great it would be to be a professional trainer for a professional sports team. So when the gentleman that is the strength trainer for the Minnesota Vikings talked, he pointed out issues that had never occurred to me. So he, in a weight room, is probably the smartest guy in the room, right? He knows it. He knows what to do. He's on the same page that we are. But he has to balance his life on a razor blade because of the egos of some of the people that he is subservient to. For example, as he articulated, if you have a coach that grew up with, barbells and dumbbells and doing calisthenics, and he thinks in his mind that that's the best protocol, whether you believe that or not, you have to practice that or you're out of a job. You also pointed out that some of the veterans that have been around for a long time, they also have their own ideas as to how they should be strength training. And whether or not those are correct or not, you have to defer to that. And for me, that would be a very big challenge, to be able to put everything that you know aside and practice methods of strength training and conditioning that might not be appropriate, but you have to do it anyway because that's your job. I think that would be a huge challenge. And all of a sudden I thought, I would never want to be a strength training coach for a professional team because I could not work within those dynamics.
Yeah, absolutely fraught with challenges, left, right, and center. Similar to you, I was very, I did not know that at all in terms of how he would have to adhere to the preferences of his superiors, but then also the star player who comes in and says, I've been training this way the whole time. They've got it stuck in their head that the reason they've got this far is because of their exact regime, which may be in some cases counterproductive. And there's not a lot he can do about that. And one thing he said, which really resonated with me, is you could have the best program, but it's the worst program if no one will actually do it. So you have to mold your skill set around what is already there. And he gave a great decision matrix on how to decide on what job you decide to pursue in their particular discipline, and who you decide to work for based on the type of person you are. So if you're happy to work for someone who's got their own preferences and you have to kind of do what they say, then that's one option. But if you're more the kind of person who needs to take control, then you have to go into these opportunities and these interviews with some of that stuff in mind, so that you can kind of qualify out or qualify in new opportunities, which I thought was cool and very useful to those that are, I suppose, working in that industry, and maybe there's some of that they can actually use to help with, with kind of normal sort of strength training business as well.
Sure.
Excellent. Okay, so I've had a number of listeners and members ask about sales. Sales is always a popular topic. It's a real challenge for a lot of people. It takes practice. It's a skill set that's really, really important. I mean, if you can't sell, and you said it best last time, the client's going to keep going around to different facilities until someone closes them, right? Those were your words.
Exactly. You're right.
So, really excited to learn more from your perspective as someone who's got a lot of experience in selling, had a lot of success selling memberships, and then more recently built up a enormous clientele in a single location and selling, big ticket services. You sell a $10,000 package sometimes. And so I think there's a lot that we can learn from you. I'd love, if we can, to kind of dive into your kind of closing strategy and maybe even your script, even if it's not, a script per se, but the script that's in your mind. So do you think it'd be best to start off by, I guess, you talking about your own sales process? Like what does that look like, kind of start to finish?
What it looks like, I have always believed that the sale is really made in the presentation. And you've got a captive audience when these people are here, and I'll reverberate what I've said before. When they walk into your facility, they're not just looking; they want to buy, they want to engage, they want a plan of action. They'll say they're just looking, but they're not, and they have overcome a lot of issues personally, especially if they're deconditioned. It takes a great deal of strength to overcome the fear of walking into a gym and talking to someone about the issues that they're facing and their desire to correct those issues. So you have to kind of have that in mind. These people have already been on a long journey, emotionally, mentally, and even physically before they come to your door. So you've got to really recognize that this is a golden opportunity to complete that journey for them and engage them and start them on a fitness program. So we walk them around the facility. We show them every single thing that we can possibly show them. We talk about the difference between our equipment and standard equipment. We'll demonstrate the machines if we can. For those of you who have MedX and Nautilus equipment, I always like to take them into the room where we have some dumbbells, and I'll demonstrate a bicep curl. And I'll show to them with a dumbbell how there are deficiencies at the top end where the resistance factors are transferred from the muscle to the bone, and they can really understand and they can feel that there's about 30% of that muscle that is not being stressed out. So if it's not being stressed out, you're not going to get as much strength out of that muscle as you could with full range. Then I'll show them a chain and I'll walk them through the story. Okay, a chain or a rubber band is progressive resistance. It may be in some cases better than a dumbbell, but it's not equalized. Then we show them the Nautilus machine and the cam, and we explain that to them. And then we take them over and we show them the MedX, that is the very similar movement to the Nautilus, but it is without friction, and we explain all of that to them. We try to educate them and hammer into them that we're different, we're superior. We not only have the best equipment around, but we have the knowledge to take them to their goals. And I think that's a huge part of it. So, when they're in your competition, one of the big box gyms that has a guy that a week ago was a car salesman and now he's a fitness salesman, they don't have that knowledge. So you've got to impress them and teach them and use that opportunity and go down deep, do deep dives into why you're different, why your equipment is better. And that translates into a couple of things. Number one, they're going to accomplish their goals. And number two, they're not going to get hurt. It's going to be safe.
And do you ask questions before you begin that process to find out what their needs and goals are first?
We do. And we qualify them. And qualifying means, are they a candidate to work out in your facility? And I'll share this with you. One of the key phrases that I picked up on early in my career was the phrase, right now. Right now is a subconscious admission to a temporary state. So if you ask someone where they live and they say, well, right now I'm living at the trailer park down on the south side of the tracks, that means that it's right now. It's not forever. If you ask the guy that is living on top of the mountain in a $5 million house where he lives, it's very unlikely that he's going to say, well, right now I'm living on top of the mountain in a $5 million house, unless, something's different that we should all know about. Same thing about jobs. Where do you work? Where do you work out? Right now, right now, right now. Find out what right now means, because maybe they're just in town for the weekend. Maybe they're, an owner of another facility or whatever. But that term right now, it can really help you guide, the process of where you're going. What do you do for a living? Right now, I'm flipping hamburgers at McDonald's. What do you do for a living? Right now, I'm a doctor. A doctor's not going to say, right now, I'm a doctor. He's going to say, I am a doctor. I'm an emergency room physician. So does that make sense to you?
It does.
Yeah. So that's a really good qualifier. Then we find out if they're working out right now. What kind of exercise have you done? What's worked for you? What's not? What are your goals? Ask them what their goals are. And we get people really all the way from 10 years old to people in their 90s. And the geriatric population, their goal is they don't want to be in a wheelchair. They don't want to be in a walker. They don't want to lose their strength and mobility. And they have already found that they have lost their balance a little bit. So then we can go down that road. We can help you with that. We're the best around. We can do this through a process of making your legs stronger, and then we start training you on unstable platforms so that your brain can subconsciously fire the muscles that it needs to fire to keep you upright without you even thinking about it. And that's helpful. If it's someone that wants to lose weight, which so many people in this country now are overweight and obese, we talk to them about our knowledge in nutrition and creating caloric deficits and using the weight resistance exercise to burn their calories, et cetera, and we'll show them case studies that we have. We'll show them examples, testimonials, where we can articulate to them and prove to them that we really know what we're doing. We have the right tools, we have the right practical experience, and they can achieve their goals with us.
So you'll ask those questions, get an understanding of their goals, their motivation, and will you then, I assume, tailor the tool, which you described earlier, depending on what they say. So you might, for instance, someone's in there, a young male who's wants to build some muscle. You might move him towards, I guess, different machines, showing him what's more effective for that, versus maybe a senior who you might show, I don't know, the MedX lumbar to help them with back strength or something like that. So will you always tailor it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, you always tailor it, because they have all these preconceived notions, and a lot of them have been improperly trained. They've read the magazines about multiple sets and split body parts and all that, and you have to explain to them the science, the evidence-based science that is there, and kind of re-educate them on the spot and say there's another way to do this. And of course, sometimes they're skeptical and they don't believe you, and then you invite them to come in for a training. Let's see if it's not a total waste of time and you think that it could lead to a sale. We would definitely want them to come in for a training and try it and check it out. Now, I'm not real big on free trainings, because I think it diminishes the value. But what we try to do is we try to schedule them for a training, so that they can check it out, so that they can feel it. And if they're successful and they like the one training, then we try to move them into a situation where we sell them a package so that we have their commitment for a longer period of time. And I'm not big on paying for trainings one at a time. That's a sure way to failure right there.
Yeah, and we'll get into that, absolutely. So, and that initial training session will cost them, what, $100, around that?
Around that, yes.
Yeah.
It depends on if they want stats done. We have a first training option where they come in, we do their circumference measurements and percentage of body fat with our ultrasound technology, and that kind of gives us an assessment, and we can really show them what kind of condition they're in. And then we'll do a one-on-one workout to the mat, just like we always do. And if they've been training anywhere and they have any experience whatsoever, and they do that, they're going to know there's a big difference training in our facility than anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So we do try to schedule that, but we don't give it for free.
Okay. And just for those listening, if you want a view of how basic training set out their pricing, it's all a la carte, and you can see it on the website, and I'll link to that from the blog post because it's really useful reference while we're talking about this. So going back, okay, so you've asked the questions, you've gone through that process, you've kind of qualified them in or out. I mean, I guess if they answer and you can tell they're not going to be a good fit for you, will you be straight with them and say, look, this might not be for you? Can you give any examples of when that might happen and what they might say?
Yeah, I have had a few occasions over the years to let people know that this is probably not the right choice for them. One was a lady that came in a few months ago, and she wanted to train with me one day a week and go to yoga and spinning and this and that. And she says, well, I don't think I can maybe do this for a couple of weeks because my daughter's getting married and I want to have all these physical changes in 2 weeks, and after that I'm done. And I just said, I just don't think this is the right place for you. So those kind of clients we don't want, because they're not going to get any results. And if they don't get results, it's going to be your fault.
And
they'll say, they'll say, yeah, I tried that guy. I went there for, 6 weeks. She won't say that she went there once a week and that she didn't change her practices and that she was doing all this other stuff. She'll just say, I went to that guy and I didn't get any results. So there's some clients that are probably not a real good idea to take on.
Yeah. And will you take a moment to say, look, if you're going to do this, you're going to do it forever, or will you just not waste your breath and kind of see them?
Oh, no, we tell them. Like, we have people say, well, how long do I have to do this? And Debbie's really good at that. She goes, forever. It's for the rest of your life. Yeah. And it's true. I mean, it's a lifestyle. And we have people that have trained with us. Well, we've been in Scottsdale now for 22 years, and they've made it part of their lifestyle.
Yeah, that's very impressive. And, when you've done that, had that introductory conversation, which, by the way, for those listening to this, you should really, if you've been listening to the podcast regularly, you should really pick up some common themes across the successful businesses in this space. Discover Strength do the same thing. Rock Solid Fitness do the same thing. A variation of the same thing, but it's a similar process. So when you do the tour, how long does that typically take?
At least a half an hour.
Okay.
Sometimes, see, because I just said that I don't endorse giving free training sessions, but on that first visit, it kind of is a free training session because we put them in machines. We want to show them the difference. We want to show them how it feels. We want to show them the compound weight stacks, the no friction, the proper training techniques, and so on and so forth. So they really do kind of get a training in that, enough to know whether they want to run out of here and never come back, or intrigue their curiosity so that they can try this again and take the next step. That's okay. Most of the time, if they commit to that first training, they're going to commit to a larger package, and we're going to have them as a client.
It's very interesting to me because maybe we can talk about this for a moment. Discover Strength almost try and squeeze both of these things into one. They have the conversation where they qualify the client's needs, motivation, goals, and then I put them straight into a free introductory workout. So in terms of time, they probably give away the same amount of time, if not slightly less than you, in order to differentiate their business, show value, and sell that customer. So so I'm just curious, playing devil's advocate a bit here, but why do 2 separate sessions? Why not just provide a free workout as the first session with them and then go from there? Because you could squeeze that in.
The first thing that comes to mind is that my schedule is solid from 6 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, and every spot is usually filled and for weeks in advance. So you can't just walk in the door and get a training. So that's number one. Number two, I think you kind of have to set them up with interest and take step 1, step 2. And Luke runs a different kind of a business model. They already have trainers available, and they can slip people into their classes, and it's real easy for them to do. For us, it's a little harder to do because we're strictly one-on-one, and even on the MedX side, we have to find the time to be able to give them their first workout, which takes an hour. And we try to stay away from anything that exerts any kind of pressure or manipulation on people, because we deal with a very educated, sophisticated consumer, and people don't like any pressure. They don't like to be pushed into something. So we kind of take the slow route. We want it to be their initiative, their desire to move forward rather than been pushed into it. Because when you push somebody into something that they don't want to do, it usually doesn't last very long. And they get buyer's remorse real fast, and they'll just call up and cancel and say, look, I don't want to do this. I wasn't thinking. I didn't know what I was doing. It's too much money, et cetera, et cetera. So we try to drill down deep, get firm commitments on every step of the way. And again, the main thing is they've got to believe that what they have seen in your facility is bigger and better than anything else that's out there. And yeah, man, it might be more money. It's more of a commitment, but it's my body. I deserve it. I need it. That's the place. If I could go anywhere, that's the place I want to go.
Yeah, completely get that. Okay, so you'll do the tour. You'll demonstrate exercises that you'll kind of tailor that to the individual. You will, obviously tailor the process. You'll talk about some of the exercise science. And again, this is, a given, I guess, as trainers, as business owners, we need to understand our exercise science. We need to understand the function of the different exercises that we perform in our business, and then obviously be able to tailor that to the audience, to the prospect. Now, once you've done that, are you fielding questions as you go? Are you kind of almost dictating at them? Like, how does that dynamic go as you're kind of going through that?
Most of the time we do field questions. And one of the things that Debbie does, and I normally don't do this because I don't like to be out there, blowing my horn, but every one of these organizations in this audience of yours has leadership. They have someone that had the experience and the initiative to open this up and create this model for training. And so Debbie is really good about telling my bio, my history, my experience. And when it's coming from another person, it sounds a lot better than if you're doing it. Like if somebody comes in and I say, hey, I've done this, I've done that, I've got this award, that award, it sounds more braggadocious. But if somebody else is saying that about you, wow, that's really something. Then this place has a leadership, a person in leadership that has created an organization and training philosophies and protocol where I can benefit from that. So you gotta have that whoever's running your organization, whoever the person is that has the dynamics and the experience to put your programs and your philosophies together, you got to talk about that person. So like if the Discover Strength people are walking people through, they got to talk about Luke, and his long-term relationship and his training and how he's, created this incredible organization up in Minneapolis, just like Debbie does with me when people walk in. And that's a big part of it, because there's so many people, especially in the big box gyms, that are in leadership capacity in these organizations. They could give a rat's ass about strength training, physiology. All they want to do is sell tickets to the front door. And I think that's one of the things in our boutique industries that we really have to get out there. We are different. We're not selling memberships. We're selling the answer to your physiological goals. We can get you there because it's our passion. It's our life. We've been trained, we've been educated, and that's what really sets us apart. Sure, you can go join, I won't mention any names because I don't want to get sued, but you can go join some of these places that are $10 a month, and they've got shit equipment that, as Kim Wood calls them, store fixtures, and nobody cares, nobody knows what they're doing. I can't even look in those places because I see, the training methodologies that are being used. And it just hurts my eyes to look at it. And you gotta attack that. You gotta let people know that this is why you are different, because you do things right and you spent your whole life educating people. And the guy at the top of your organization has a passion for it, and that's why we're better and that's why we're different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I recently proposed to my girlfriend of 6 years, and she said yes, which was good.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I can talk about it now.
She's a lovely gal, so that's awesome. Great.
Thank you. But yeah, unfortunately, she couldn't make it this year to the conference, but next year I'm working on it. I should be able to convince her to come along. So you're making me think of the process I went through to get the engagement ring. She wanted a very particular ring. I wanted to find the right ring for her. So I kind of went around the different stores in Galway here in Ireland. And I went to some of the high street shops. And the service was okay, but the follow-up was really bad. They didn't actually email me or anything. But the feel of the store was very, I don't know, artificial feel to it when you walked in. And then eventually I found this store called Cobwebs, which is a small boutique jewelry store with tons of personality. It's got a great story around it. You walk in and you feel like you're in, I don't know, some ancient building from like Lord of the Rings or something. Like it's just a really nice place. I know that was a very good description, but it just, their story really, I really bought into their story, and I love supporting small businesses. And the service was exceptional as well, which always helps. And the expert who I spoke to was a real expert on precious stones. And, we were talking about, I'm trying not to digress too much here, but it's all related. We were talking about the vulnerabilities of emeralds and diamonds, and he knew everything. He knew about the molecular structures of the stones. And wow. I completely bought into, obviously, their whole philosophy and his expertise. And, no wonder I ended up purchasing a ring from there. But it's exactly what you're saying. It's like, the boutique businesses listening to this, they have an enormous opportunity to play to their advantage, differentiate their uniqueness to the big box gyms, and then differentiate them further with their expertise. So I don't know why, but that kind of experience came up for me there as you were talking. Bill, so you were talking about the importance of body language. Made some really good points about you shouldn't ask for the sale while you're walking or standing. You should wait until you can sit down and actually discuss the experience. And then you mentioned a great book in terms of learning about how to read body language. Do you want to just restate the book? And do you remember the author's name by any chance? If not, don't worry, I can find it.
I don't remember the author's name. I have it somewhere. I can find it and text it to you.
Great.
But the book was called Body Language in Closing. And it was a great book. It was designed for, salespeople of all industries. But it really talks about reading the physical signs where people project, and subconsciously they are telling you whether they're on guard, whether they're receptive, whether they're concerned about money, all kinds of things. And I have found those tools to be very, very valuable in all of my years of trying to close sales. And I used to teach those to my sales staff when I had a staff. So as I mentioned previously, we've been walking these people around your facility. They've been following you physically. You're not just standing at the door pointing out machines. You are walking them through. So they're getting used to following you. And when they're following you physically, they're following you mentally as well. So at that point, when you're ready to talk about the money issues, then you say, let's go sit down and let me show you how our programs work, our price structures and our scheduling. And then you bring them in and you actually sit down in a comfortable place, whether it's a desk, chairs, or a other kind of an environment, and you start to go over your price structures. And as you mentioned earlier, our price structures are on the internet, so everyone already knows how we structure our prices, and we have an a la carte type offering because we have a lot of different ways that we can approach training and have the customers pay for the services that we provide. But let's talk about body language and closing. First of all, you're sitting them down. If someone is sitting in the chair and their arms are crossed and the woman has her purse in her lap, they're not ready. They're not buying into whatever you've told them. There is some resistance there. So you've either got to put it off, try to uncover the resistance, or you're not going to get that sale. Body language and closing has other things that you can watch for. If you're on the tour or you're starting to talk about closing and the guy's hand goes into his pocket and he's clutching his keys or jingling his change, that guy is very concerned about money. And that's an issue. So maybe it's price point, maybe there's, a different package that you can offer him. But I think that is a very telling sign. When their arms are folded, you're not getting in there. They're not receptive. When the woman's purse goes down on the ground and she sits back and starts to relax, then she's receptive. She's interested in more. She's willing to be closed. There's other things where you have the hand that goes behind your neck and you're rubbing your neck. You feel that you're threatened. It's not a good time to go for the close. A lot of times when a woman or maybe even a man that has long hair, he starts curling his hair around his finger, playing with their hair, that's a sign that they're relaxed and they're receptive. So there's lots and lots of things that you can learn from body language and closing. And like I mentioned earlier, we watch for those signs and we use that as an indicator as to whether or not it's time to go for the close or not.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Okay, so you've got them to that comfortable place where you're sitting down. You've kind of read the signs to see if they're receptive to the sale. And I suppose, a big part of the body that will determine the type of body language you see is how well you have done that first part. So in terms of finding out about them, understanding their goals, their motivation, their needs, and then tailoring the tool, making sure that you're showing them machines, showing them exercises, talking about training that's relevant to them and what they've asked for specifically. So if you've done that right, then I guess you're increasing the odds that the body language will be positive when you walk into that kind of final phase of the sale. And so once you're there, how do you, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you might talk about the pricing, because I don't suspect you sit there and list every single price point. Like you say, they've probably been on the website. They may have seen it ahead of time, which is another thing, actually, which is something that Discover Strength would teach, is that you should be as transparent as possible on your website to qualify out people that aren't a good fit for you. And so can you talk a little bit more about that conversation, how you lead up to the close, and then ultimately how you ask for the sale?
Yes, well, we just start presenting the prices. We'll sit down at the desk with them and we show them our training packages. And we start with, one training is X amount of dollars, and that's usually just the first training to see, if it's a good match for you. And again, we don't give that away for free because we think it diminishes the value. So we charge for that. Then we show them our training packages, and we have packages, 10 visits, 30 visits, 60 visits, and then we have yearly packages as well. And what that is really all about is the more investment that you make up front, the greater the value to you, because we do have a discounted rate for a higher capacity, a higher purchase. And that makes sense to a lot of people. And so it's, there's an old Irish saying, and you've probably heard of it, and I'd like to hear it in your accent because it seems to have a little bit more of a punch. Better in me pocket than your pocket, right?
Well, I'm English, so it probably won't sound that good. It would sound better if my Irish fiance said it.
Exactly. Debbie wants to chime in for a second, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Hi,
Absolutely.
Lauren.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi. It was sure great to see you at the Resistance Conference, and thank you for having us on your program. But the only thing I was going to mention is when people come in and they're looking to invest in themselves and spend the time and the energy and the money to get results, we just let them know that we really have the best of both worlds that can really cater to their needs. Some people like to start out with a little private training in Bill's private training studio, or maybe they need the medical medics for lumbar and cervical strengthening, the ultrasound body fat testing, but we also have our membership and cardio programs. So really it's tailoring a program for their individual needs and whatever is works for their time frame, their budget, and we really make them feel comfortable with no pressure.
Right. Okay. Would you mind just kind of elaborating on how you might talk about that when you're sitting down, like how you might describe the package to them? Is there any more that can be said on that?
Sure. When people are interested in starting a training program, we really qualify what their main goal is. If it's strength training, mobility, balance work, lumbar and cervical, and then we just go through each program and find out where they'll be most comfortable starting. A lot of times I suggest that they try a private training session with Bill, whether it's 30 minutes or 1 hour. We have both options. And a lot of times I even invite them in, if I'm speaking to them over the phone, to just have a complimentary consultation. Bill did mention that we don't like to give away a training as far as a free training. However, I will offer them to invite them into the facility and show them around and say, if you'd like to have a complimentary consultation and have Bill's 40 years of knowledge and expertise, and we can sit down and tailor a program for your needs. They really feel comfortable like that. They don't have any pressure. They get to see our facility. They get to meet us, meet Bill, and it really makes them feel comfortable. And then we can start to evaluate when they would like to start and where they would like to begin and what's in their budget.
Okay. So if I've got this right, and I want to keep you on, Debbie, for a second, if that's okay. Yes. Bill's just told me about how, you have the client come in, ask them a bunch of questions, put them through a tour, show them the facility, show them machines. So is what you just said there, potentially if you've got the first point of contact, that you might pre-sell that experience with Bill that he's just described, exactly. Or is that different? Yeah. Okay. Got it.
That's really how we have our training center structured. Is people will either come in and do a private training session with Bill, or every single person is still required to go through a medics training to join our membership. Even if they've worked out their whole lives, we have a lot of referrals from the medical profession, docs, surgeons, athletes, people that come from all around the world. We still, just with the advanced technology of the MedX machines and our circuit, and even our cardio equipment with the Jacobs ladder and the Marpole row pull and a lot of the different things that we have to offer, we still require everyone to go through a one-time training to have access to our membership. And so I always say maybe you would like to start a training with Bill, or you can try your first training on our MedX membership side if that's more affordable for them, because that's a monthly membership at $100 a month, and Bill has a private training rate at an hourly rate. So I usually suggest a training on both sides. Private training with Bill, they can always transfer over to the membership side. Some people like to commit and say, I'd really like to have Bill's 42 years of knowledge and expertise. Start with him for maybe about a month or two, and then transfer over to the membership. So it really just depends on what's in their goals and what's in their budget.
Got it. Okay. So occasionally they might say, hey, you know what? I want Bill's experience. And then you'll say, great. And you'll book in a complimentary consultation with Bill. And you won't charge anything at that point.
Not at all. And that's really just to get them into the facility.
And that consultation is showing them the differences between dumbbells, barbells, Nautilus equipment, chains, and MedX, and going into the history of MedX and the whole thing. It's not a training. We might have them try 2 or 3 machines so they can feel it and understand it. And I have my favorite machines that I like to demonstrate that really shows and exhibits the technology of MedX.
Well, just on
really
that,
the best both worlds. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just on that, Bill, one for you if you can hear this. Am I on loudspeaker now?
Yes.
Oh, great. Perfect. What have you found in your portfolio of machines to be the most effective selling tools to really demonstrate the quality?
The Med-X bicep machine, the Med-X torso pullover machine. Those are so impressive. And then the third machine would be the Med-X, either the strength training lumbar machine or the medical Med-X lumbar machine. Those are my favorites, and just blows people away because they've never seen anything quite like it.
So Bill, going back to you, talking about the end of the consultation, we talked about the body language situation, how you might run through the different pricing, obviously keeping in mind what's going to be best for the client, giving them options to consider. How do you then ask for the sale? Because I guess afterwards you're I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'd love to hear you elaborate on this, but you'll go through the list of packages that might be appropriate, and then you might say, how would you like to get started, or what makes sense for you? Or can you just talk a little bit more about how you would close a sale?
Yeah, hey, results start when you do. When would you like to schedule your first training, and how would you like to take care of it? While we're on that, I need to talk a little bit about how you get the money. So there's some people out there that are reluctant to use plastic money, charge cards, because they don't like the percentage that is charged, et cetera, et cetera. That is a huge mistake. We wouldn't be in business if we didn't take plastic. You are asking for a large purchase amount. And, when somebody has to count out $100 bills or write a check, they feel that. It hurts them. When they pull out a charge card, it's a lot easier for them to disconnect from the amount of money that they're spending and their bank account. You must take charge cards. And it doesn't matter what the discount rate is that the bank charges you. That's like paying rent. That's like utilities. That is the cost of doing business in today's world. And if you don't take plastic, you are not going to be successful. It's just not going to work for you.
Completely agree. And also, as well as the mental shift, it's low friction, right? It's much easier. A lot of people don't carry cash anymore. I mean, a lot of people are just completely cashless and just walk around with credit cards. So no, absolutely. I think it's imperative that people offer that way of payment. So please elaborate. Sorry, I kind of cut in. Yeah.
That's okay. And I also know there's a lot of young entrepreneurs out there that are just getting started. And in this kind of a facility, and this kind of a business, and this kind of a service, fast nickels are better than slow dimes. So if you have the ability to enter this practice and your competition with lower rates, you're going to be successful. You're going to be a lot better off having, 10 people in one day that are paying a reduced rate rather than 3 or 4 every other day that are paying a high rate. Because action breeds action. And if you have a full schedule, you're going to get more people. When you have a deal, you can get a deal. So I would encourage the young people that are starting out to charge lower rates. And how I justified it in my mind when I was, first starting, the one-on-ones, I figured, well, my contemporaries are working in offices and this job and that job, and they're getting, $12, $15, $20 an hour. And I know that some of the training facilities are charging, quite a little bit. But if I can make my hourly rate, $25 or $30 an hour in the beginning when I'm starting out, isn't that a lot better than getting $12 an hour working for somebody else? And that creates a lot of value for your initial customers who don't know you. Their friends don't know you, but after you get them engaged in your services and they find out that you're the best at what you do, then you can start raising your prices as your schedule fills. But if you want to get that initial clientele base, you got to go in with a low point of sale so that there is no resistance on the price whatsoever, because you're an unknown. They don't know you yet. And if there's less resistance for the price, sure, I'm going to sign up for 10 trainings for $250 or whatever. And pretty soon they're going to be telling their friends, well, I don't have that rate anymore. I'm sorry. I've raised it to 30 or I've raised it to 35. And pretty soon, as you climb the ladder of value and limited options for scheduling people, you're going to be getting, $75, $85, $90, $100 an hour. But I would strongly suggest coming in with a lower price point and asking for as much money up front as you can possibly get, so that you can get their commitment and have a commitment that's long enough in advance so that they're going to see results and be able to take plastic. I think those are all key.
Yeah, absolutely. Really appreciate that. And I guess, you're increasing price over time, which is increasing your value to your prospect as well. There's something else I was going to say around that, but I've completely forgotten. And one thing you mentioned last time we spoke was you were very against sort of offering a pay-as-you-go model because there's no sunken commitment. There's a lack of accountability versus a monthly commitment or a package-based commitment.
Correct. And I'll tell you, if you pay as you go, you're going to get cancellation after cancellation after cancellation, and it'll destroy your relationship with your client. So we get all of our training fees up front in advance, and we have a cancellation policy as well. And they understand that if you cancel with less than 24 hours notice, you're going to be charged for that session. Now, of course, we make exceptions. If they came down with the flu and we don't want them in here, we'll give them a pass. If their kid, has an accident and has to be taken to the emergency room, we'll take that as a pass. But if they're canceling you for a nail appointment or to go out to lunch with friends, guess what? You're going to pay for it. And you can't do that if you're charging by the session, and you don't have their commitment if they're not charging by the session. You've got to go deep. And I always say, look, if you make a commitment financially, and I'll say this again, I know I've already said it, but if I have your money, I have your attention. If I have your attention, I have your commitment. If I have your commitment, you're going to show up for the trainings. If you show up for the trainings, you're going to get the results, period, no matter what. So I want to make sure they get results. I want to make sure that they're with me long enough that they go through oh my God, this is too hard. I don't like it. I've gained weight. I look fatter. You got to be able to go deep enough into the training program where they're going to start to see and realize the real results. And they'll say, I didn't like that at first. That guy was a real asshole. His training was hard, but man, I'm sure getting those results and it works. And then they'll continue training with you.
Yeah, well said. One thing I wanted to say earlier, which I couldn't remember to say, or kind of left my mind, was that when you start to increase your prices, as you do become more successful, you will get a better quality customer. Have you found that to be the case with your business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, some of the people will drop off. They'll say, hey, I just can't afford those rates anymore. That's okay, because there's somebody right behind you that will. But you've got to have your stable full. You got to have your facility full. You got to have your schedule full. And when people come in and they see you and they see that you're busy, and boy, I can't get you in today, but I could get you in 2 days from now, that subconsciously makes them want to be there. Nobody wants to try somebody out that's not doing anything or that can't get any clients. And we're so fortunate because we have built up a referral type basis, and that's what everybody wants. The days are gone, where we, would have discount memberships and sign up now and blah, blah, blah. All of our business, most of our business is referral based, where, we're doing a great job. So somebody tells their friends we're doing a great job, but you got to build that base. You got to fill up your pipeline. And I think that for an unknown quantity, you've got to offer a discounted pricing on your schedule so you can fill your schedule, and then it'll all come together for you.
Yeah, Good advice for those starting out. And for those listening who want the more content on referrals, we did a part 1 together, me and Bill, where he talked about, in a nutshell, how he's kind of built the business and how now he does absolutely no outbound marketing whatsoever, aside from a little bit of Facebook posting, which is unpaid, is my understanding. And so, how you've been able to kind of build this enormous, or this awesome referral engine, which again is a common theme. If you create a great business and you provide an excellent service and you're really thoughtful about every single touch point, just listen to what Bill's talked about in this one regarding payment processing, cash versus card, tailoring the tool based on the type of questions you get, how to ask for the sale based on body language. All these things are so important. And obviously, once you get the client, it's about making sure that their experience is fantastic and they're actually getting incredible results. And then that will, over time, create these referrals for you. And I think that's what a lot of business owners may struggle to understand. Is my experience is that they don't understand that. They get so obsessed with the marketing tactics, but really they have to focus on their service and their business, because that is going to ultimately generate those word of mouth referrals from their existing clients. That's certainly what it seems anyway.
Exactly. And when somebody walks in and they tell you what their goals are, whatever it is, go directly to the services and the equipment that you offer that addresses those goals. Don't dance around and lead up to it. Go straight there so that they can get that off their mind and off their head immediately. And also remember that we are in a service-based business. So you can't be closing down your business to go, shopping with the kids or out to lunch, or I'm sorry, I can't train you this day because I'm going to be, recreating or whatever. You've got to be available for these people when they are available. And that's one of the choices you make when you decide that you're going to be a one-on-one fitness trainer, that you're going to give up some personal time. You're going to give up some free time, because you've got to be available when they are available. If you're too hard to get to and you're too busy, doing outside activities outside your business, they're going to say, to hell with this guy. I want to find somebody that's serious about their business. Same thing when they're training. When somebody comes in to do eyeball training, one-on-one training, you're not talking to other people on the phone. You're not occupied in the back. You're not reading a magazine. You're not on your cell phone. You are with that person one-on-one from beginning to end. Of course, there's exceptions that we all have to take care of here and there, but you can't be distracted. You've got to be available to them, because you are in a service-based business and they own your ass for that hour. And you got to do the very best job that you can during that hour when they have you. And that's how you build relationships. We talked about this earlier. One of the collateral benefits of being a one-on-one trainer, you spend more quality time with this person in a dressed-down atmosphere than they do with anybody else in their life, including their spouses, their employees, and so on and so forth. And pretty soon you know everything about that person. You know everything that's happened to them, everything that's going to happen to them, and you forge relationships with them. And that's how you build long-term longevity and keeping them as a client, is because they become acquaintances, they become friends. And you cannot betray that ever for any reason whatsoever. Mm. Another thing, I'm going to say this because we've all been, young men in our 20s and 30s. Maybe some of these guys are single. And I used to tell this to my trainers. If you decide that you're going to forge an intimate relationship with a client, maybe you'll get married and have 10 kids and live happily ever after. Maybe you'll have a one-night stand and it'll be over. But I'll tell you one thing that's going to happen for sure. You're going to lose a client.
That's good advice. That
person will no longer be your client. And, we have a lot of, single people that come in here. We have a lot of married people that come in here. And I work side by side with my wife every single day. There are spouses out there that don't want their significant other going into a place where their marriage, their relationship might be threatened. And you got to be strictly business. You've got to be strictly professional. And we all know that there are practitioners in our field that aren't, and it'll burn your practice right down to the ground. So that's another thing to be aware of.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
And what also is really unique, Lawrence, about our model for our fitness and strength training center is it's really that we offer the best of both worlds. And it's not just private training, it's not just membership, but it's the best of both worlds. And we really don't feel that it's about selling. We feel that it's about service and professionalism and helping people reach their goals. So that's really the key.
Yeah. And I just think it's really interesting how you're both highly successful, with a lot of credentials behind you, and yet you demonstrate such humility. And it's that kind of lack of arrogance that I think is so important, and again, a common theme across those that succeed in this type of business. Bill, you mentioned earlier briefly how you asked for the sale, and it was incredibly slick. Can you just repeat that for me, and maybe we could talk about that for a moment if you've got time?
Yeah, I said, results start when you do. Let's get started. Let's sit down and schedule your first training. How would you like to take care of that? And this is critical, okay? Silence is the biggest, heaviest closing tool in your arsenal. Ask for it and shut up. Don't talk, because the first person that talks is the loser in this game. You might think, well, nobody's saying anything. I better jump in there and go through all this information again. Oh my God, there's silence in the room. Don't. Shut your mouth. Wait for their response. Period. If I can give any advice, that's right up there with stop the contraction on the short end of the concentric contraction. Be quiet. Silence is a killer. Silence is pressure, and you don't have to say anything. Ask for the sale and be quiet.
Do you know, if I used to do these little quotes at the beginning of my episodes, and if I were doing one for this, I would definitely just take that soundbite right there that you just said, because that was gold. Okay, so completely agree. I've got a sales background. You might know, Bill, I had almost a 10-year career in London selling complex IT services to businesses. So this stuff always really resonates with me. Yeah.
I did not know that. That's awesome. Great.
Yes, one for another time. But completely agree with what you just said there. Now, have you got a few minutes? Because there's just a couple more questions I've got for you. If not, we can wrap it up there.
I do.
Okay, cool. So, occasionally you're going to get some objections, right? You're going to get some people say, come at you with an excuse as to why they don't want to invest right now or whatever. I'd love to hear, what are the most common objections you get, and how do you overcome those?
Oh, hi, Lawrence. It's Debbie again.
Hi.
A lot of the objections that we get, because a lot of times Bill will be in a private training session, and I will be speaking with these people before they even get to talk to him. And a lot of times they'll say, well, I'm going out of town. I'll be back in a week or a month. I have surgery scheduled. Oh, I'm going to visit with my doctor to make sure I can do this. A lot of times they'll have a lot of different things that are going on in their life, a lot of moving parts. And so we really don't pressure them. I just let them know. I give them the information with our brochure, and I do, ask for their phone number to see if I can follow up with them. But we also just let them know that if they're going out of town and they're traveling and they have a medical issue or issues with, kids and things that they have to deal with, I just let them know that we're available to visit with them when they are ready. And that's kind of how we go from there.
Debbie touched on one that just always seems to light my fuse. And if they say, I've got to go check with my doctor, or my doctor doesn't want me to exercise, I'll jump right in there and say, hey, if you're going to a doctor, no matter what your physical condition, if they are not endorsing exercise, you need to get a new doctor, because you're seeing the wrong doctor. And, I am totally confident that that's the correct answer to give them. And just like Doug McGrath said, we're on opposite sides. Just like Doug McGuff said, we're on opposite sides of this battle between the medical priesthood and the practitioners of weight resistance exercise in most cases. Yeah. So that one is easy to defeat. And again, fall back on, let's get started. Even if you are going on vacation, let's get a couple of workouts under your belt. Then we have your commitment and you're going to come back. You've got to get them committed. And I try very, very hard to close the sale, even if it's, for that first training. Let's get it closed. Let's get it taken care of. Let's get it on the books. Let's get the money so that they'll come back. And if you make an appointment with someone for a week or so down the road and you don't have their money in your pocket, chances are they're not going to come back. So no matter what, don't just open up the appointment book without opening up the checkbook, because when you have their money, you have their commitment and they'll be back. So you have to get the money closed on the first closing attempt. It's not good enough to say, okay, I'll be back in next week at 4:00. Okay, then we have to pay for that now so that we know you're going to show up. And just tell them that. Say, look, we're busy. We can't afford to have missed trainings because somebody else wants that spot. If you're serious and this is something that you're really going to do, we need to collect the money now. And that's not unlike what other people do in other businesses. You can't buy a ticket to a ball game. You can't buy a ticket to an airline or a movie theater without paying for it and making that commitment that you're actually going to show up.
Yeah. So it sounds like you and Debbie have slightly different approaches. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like Debbie's got more of a softer sell. If they do object after the offer, she'll give them the brochure. I guess, it depends on the context, right? So if Debbie's kind of pre-selling your consultation,
exactly.
they've already got, right.
And then Bill steps in. And that's why I always offer the consultation to have them visit with Bill, meet with Bill, speak with Bill. Sometimes he will step out of a private training session if I ask him to, if somebody has a medical question or concern, if they want to meet him. So we're very accommodating. And I really don't put a lot of pressure on. We truly feel that what we have to offer is very unique. And you can really tell if they are ready to invest the time and the energy and the money to get the results and make a commitment. And you can just tell. And they really appreciate that. They always say, boy, this really isn't like sales. I don't feel any pressure here at all. Really love this facility. Really want to work with you guys. This is really a good fit for me. And you really can tell from their response, like Bill said, when you're closing them.
And I'm not advocating high pressure sales. I'm speaking passionately right now to somebody else inside the industry. But when we're closing people, they don't know they're getting closed.
Exactly.
It's very subtle.
And for the most part, I really can get them to schedule a training with Bill because it's one training. I also do 30-minute trainings for a different rate on our membership side, which I can invite them in for a cardio session, maybe a consultation or a training on our MedX membership side. So they don't have to commit to a large package of trainings. We really tailor it to their individual needs.
Right.
And again, it's like you set the appointment, you set the first workout of the first 10, and you go, okay, let's get that scheduled. How would you like to take care of it? And then I will always say we take MasterCard, Visa, American Express, and Discover checks or cash. And that when you put that out there, and that's the second part of the sentence, which I failed to mention earlier, you put those choices out there, then it's like, okay, well, it's not yes or no, it's which one.
Yeah. How would you like to take care of it? It's a lovely soft close as well, because it's like it's very soft wording. And I know Discover Strength do a similar thing in terms of an open question. They'll say, "How would you like to get started with our one-on-one personal training or our group training?" There's no
right. And let's do a little deeper dive into that.
Yeah.
Do not set yourself up for a negative response. Do not set yourself up for a yes or no. And what I mean by that is if you just said, would you like to sign up today? Then that's yes or no. And you got a 50% chance they're going to say no. If you rephrase that, so how would you like to take care of this? MasterCard, Visa, checks, cash. Then it's a multiple choice. And it actually makes it harder for them to say no.
Yes, it does. And yeah, absolutely.
And we also do not have any other trainers in our facility, which makes it really unique because a lot of facilities there are multiple trainers, which is great. And maybe somebody has a specific request for a trainer, so that's also an option because Bill trains one-on-one or I train. So when you're in a lot of different facilities, people have multiple trainers or other people that they want to work with. So that's another option when people are signing up.
Yeah, I mean, guys, let me know when you need to wrap up, but I'm just going to ask a couple more questions if that's okay. How do you you have the $10,000 package, which I think you mentioned to me, Bill, before that you very rarely close that on the first meeting. It would probably be someone who's already been working with you for a while and sees the value in a long-term commitment and understands there's price breaks included in that. So I'd love to hear how you might go about closing someone on a 10K package.
Well, this is somebody that probably buys, 30 or 60 visit packages. Mm-hmm. They might have a travel schedule where they're in or out of town a little bit, and they are also candidates to have membership on our other side where they can come as often as they want, and we charge $1,000 a year for that. So this is a composition of all of the different services that we offer, with either 2 trainings a week or 3 trainings a week, and there's value in it, and we know that there is, and we just express to them that this is an annual commitment, and a lot of people do this, and if they're doing it and there's more value in it and you can afford it, let's just take care of this so that you're committed for a year. And if you're committed for a year, then you are going to realize your fitness goals, and you're going to get the results that you're looking for. And in a world where, there's a lot of concierge medical practices now, are you familiar with that over in the UK?
Kind of, but you might want to elaborate.
Okay, so our healthcare system has gone through a lot of changes, and it's been jolted over the past decade or so, and it's pushed a lot of doctors into, community practitioners, closed down a lot of practices. So now in the U.S., if you want to have good medical care and access to your doctor, they become a concierge doctor. And what that means is you'll pay them anywhere from $1,000 or $5,000 a year just to have access to them so that you can come in and have appointments with them. But they provide a lot of service. They'll take phone calls. They'll get you into the office whenever they want. So this is kind of like that. It's an annual fee. And what could be more important than taking care of your body? There is nothing more important than that. And I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this, but I'm going to eat up about 5 minutes here. Okay,
go for it.
So, and it's how we talk about priorities, and this really resonates with people that are successful and they can afford to make a financial commitment to your services. So let's say that Bill Gates, okay, is having a great day. And Bill Gates, I think, and there's the other guy. What's the other guy named from Amazon? Bezos?
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos. So he's the richest guy he's the richest guy in the world now, correct?
Mm-hmm. Probably. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So let's say that Jeff Bezos.
Well, maybe not after his divorce, but sorry, God.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let's go back. Let's go back. Let's go back to Bill Gates. Okay. So Bill Gates is not feeling good. So Bill Gates goes to the doctor, and the doctor runs a couple of tests. He gets very excited, puts him on a bed, and runs a couple of other tests. And he comes in and he says, "Bill, I got terrible news for you. You're dying. You're going to die, and there's nothing I can do about it. You got enough time to call your wife and kids. I'll be back in a minute." He leaves the room. While he's gone, in floats Merlin the magician. Okay, and Merlin floats over with his wand, and stars are falling off of him, and he looks over at Bill Gates, and he goes, "Hey, Bill, I got a deal for you. Let's make a deal. If you give me every single thing that you have, all your money, all your material possessions, except for your wife and kids, I will give you 10 more years of life." Question to you, would Bill Gates take that deal?
Yes.
Absolutely he would. And so would anybody else. So if you take that and put it in perspective, you don't have to give up everything you've ever had. You just have to give up $10,000 a year, because that's what training is going to cost you no matter what. And you're going to be able to have a higher quality life. We don't know if this extends your life or not, but we know that you'll have higher quality of life. You'll be impervious to a lot of disease and sicknesses. Your immune system's going to go up. You go on and on and on and on, because if you could take all the benefits of weight resistance exercise and put them in a pill, you would have the wonder drug of the millennium. So it's worth whatever you're paying for at any cost. Because if you compare that to loss of life, or even the cost of medical treatments for the consequences of being deconditioned, I got to tell you, it's a bargain. It's a bargain at any price. It's a bargain if they give you your house. Who would not trade that? I had a guy one time that was morbidly obese, and he had to lose like 250 pounds, and he was going to go in for gastrointestinal bypass surgery. I said, stop the train. This is insane. This is crazy. This is so serious. If I were you, I'll tell you what I would do. I would quit my job. I would sell my house. I would put my most prized possessions in storage, and I would buy a backpack, and I would walk across the U.S., I'd walk across Europe, and I'd get my life back. That guy did it. He actually did it, and it was worth it to him because he had his life and he had his health back. So If you put it in perspective, it's worth a fortune, because nothing is more valuable to us at the end than our life.
Absolutely. So where do I sign?
Right here. How would you like to take care of that? We take MasterCard, Visa, American Express, checks, or cash.
Well, American Express obviously is what I would use. Yeah. No, that's great. That's really, really useful. Final question for you, Bill, before we wrap up. I get a lot of questions from listeners and members asking how to better explain high intensity training. I mean, there's so many rabbit holes you can go down. It's so removed from a lot of the ways people think about exercise. What are some of the basic ways in which you actually explain it to someone who has no idea what the type of service you offer is or does? How do you start talking about it in a way that they can understand and appreciate? And maybe if Debbie wants to answer that too, that would be fine. But just really love to hear that.
Well, high-intensity training is not what a lot of people think it is. It's not jumping off of boxes, flipping tires, and swinging kettlebells over your head. The high-intensity training that we subscribe to is, the first word is safe. In 42 years, I've never injured a client. No one's ever been hurt here. No one's ever sprained, twisted, broken a leg, broken a tendon, pulled a muscle. It is safe. And for someone that has never experienced any kind of exercise before, in a world where people are getting hurt left and right, that's a platform you can really stand on and shout out. So it's evidence-based. It has been researched and proven at leading universities all over the world. It's high intensity because you have got to subject your muscles and your bones to stress. And when they're subjected to stress, the body adapts to that stress, and that's what makes you stronger. That's what creates the inroads of capillary development, oxygen to the tissues, and that's what stresses the bones out, and that reverses osteopenia and osteoporosis. That, to me, is high-intensity training.
Beautiful. Debbie, is Debbie still on the line as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Mm-hmm. I just love to hear, do you say exactly the same thing, or do you have a different way of explaining it? Like, imagine if I were a new client, how might you explain it to me?
High intensity training is, like Bill said, we promote a safe and effective workout with many years of knowledge and expertise, and also the amazing equipment that we have to offer. And there are a lot of different philosophies on strength training, but as Bill always says, there is no substitute for weight resistance exercise, and we do the high intensity training to help them get the results.
Beautiful. Again, where do I sign? No, that was great. It's really helpful to hear how you guys articulate it, because it's just so beneficial for the new and the existing businesses in this field to learn how to articulate it in a way that's going to resonate, because it's very confusing with all of the information we take on to kind of distill that down to a few words or a short sentence. And just before I forget and before we wrap up, I will just say for those listening, if you're interested in learning more from Bill, we did do a part 1, which goes into a lot more detail in terms of their business. But also, in the HIT Business membership, Bill kindly recorded some content with me on how to use MedX effectively with clients to get results, and also how to sell MedX specifically. And there's a ton of content in there as well from the likes of Discover Strength and others on how to sell your training and sell your services, which is a nice complement to this one for sure. This has been a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm really grateful. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Yes, I would. What time are we meeting? Give me the month, the day, and we'll pick you up at the airport, and we'll spend a day at basic training. How would you like to handle that?
Well, that's a gift right there. No, I'm seriously going to take you up on that at some point, but logistically, we'll just have to see. So hopefully it won't be as late as next year or as late as rec when we see each other again. But we'll just have to see, and I'll have to keep you posted. But what's the best way for the listeners to find out more about you guys? How do they find out more?
Two ways. They can go to our website, which is basictrainingscottsdale.com, or they can email us at iamfitness@aol.com, and they can always call us in the U.S. 480-874-8008.
At Basic Training MedX Strength Fitness and Strength Training Center in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Perfect. And to everyone listening, to find the blog post for this episode, please go to corporatewarrior.co/sales. And for all episodes, please go to corporatewarrior.co/podcast. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.
Discover how to improve health, become a great personal trainer, and build a successful high-intensity strength training business. Check out corporatewarrior.co. corporatewarrior.co.